In this video, we're going to focus on how we can give our bars gradient color based on the values on our y-axis here. As you can see here, we have two. We have one that is an instant transition. We have one that's a gradual transition. And what we really want to do was make sure that here, from 14 on and upward, it becomes instantly red, while everything below here becomes green, and then gradually converts back to the red color. So let's start to explore how we can do this. In this video, we're going to focus on one of the viewers' questions, which is how to use gradient color based on the scale value in Chartjs. And this question came from one of my other videos about how to make a vertical gradient fill line chart in Chartjs. So if we scroll down here, you will eventually see the question came from Tom Dillon. So a special thank you to Tom Dillon. And this is what Tom asked. Thanks for the tutorial. Can you give the color by value of the y-axis? If you now change the size of the color, does it stay static? Alright, so he's referring to basically to this video where we're using hard-coded numbers. But we can also, of course, use the y-axis scale values and then use them as our color coordinator. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use that and create one like that. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to go to chartjs3.com, getting started. And in here, you might notice this, for some reason my Google Chrome gives this weird error. Anyway, in here we're going to grab the default code, so I'm going to copy this entire chunk of code. And if you want to understand this code, make sure you watch this video here that explains all the JavaScript of the code. I'm going to paste this in here, and once I paste that in here, I'm going to cut the title here, put it in there. Save that and refresh. There we are. So now we have our bar chart. And what we want to do now is we want to use basically a gradient color, or we want to switch the color the moment it hits, for example, here above or here below. So let's start and work on that. So what we're going to do is the following. We're going to select here our item, and then basically in here we're going to change this. So this could be background color, border color. I'm going to just delete all of this. And this color will now be based on a specific function. So I'm going to say here the following. This color, we're going to create a function out of it. So we say here context. And this context here, we're going to put in here this arrow expression, arrow function expression. This would mean that basically this is a callback. We're going to, before we even give it a color, we're going to direct it to another function. So what we want to do here, first of all, is to say constant chart, and then we say equal, and then we say context.chart. And the reason why is we need this to be sent to the function so we can play around within the function and get the values that we need. This is very important, or else we need to use like this. But because we are already in here, and this loaded first before we loaded this one, so we cannot use this constant yet because it doesn't recognize yet. It hasn't loaded that part yet. So that's why we're going to use this here, and this will help us to grab or referring back to this specific part here. Anyway, very technical, but doesn't matter. We don't use much of this. What we want to do here is constant. Then we're going to say here, this is the object restructuring. This is very similar to creating a plugin, where we create all these specific values here. What I want is the CTX, which is basically the canvas. I want the chart area, and I need the scales. And the reason why we need the scales here, of course, is to grab the values here. So then we say here equals chart. Once we did this, then I'm going to say here if. And then I'm going to say here exclamation mark chart area. So if there's no chart area, in this case, we want to return null. Return null. Alright. And then once we have that, what we want to do then, after we say return get gradient, which is basically our function, and this function will contain these parameters here. So why are we doing this? Because on first load there's something being drawn, so it renders basically the chart, and then it cannot find sometimes the item, and what happens, it will give you an error and it will stop the code. What we want to do is we want to continue on with the code, because we know after the second load or the second run of that code, it will eventually work. So you will notice that usually the first two times it just doesn't show any value. It will be like undefined or no value at all. And then the third time there is. And the reason why is there's like an animation. You can see like this here. If you would refresh here, you can see here in the beginning, and then it will slowly go up, and then this animation here impacts the code. This here avoids that we have an error and stops the code immediately. So we just want to say continue on no matter what. Then eventually it will grab the right code, and then it will be fine. So now we have this here. What I want to do is here, I just want to grab this all, because we will be needing all of these values here. We're going to put it here down. I'm going to put here a function, and this function will be, of course, the get gradient function, and then is the same parameters that we already had indicated above. So what I want to do here now is start to work with drawing the items, but let's do a console log first and just give me or give you a clear example what's going on here. If I have these values, save this, and then if I refresh, alright, ignore this, it doesn't matter so much, and you can see here, alright, if I refresh again, you can see here it loads, and what happens, it recognizes all these values here, so it grabs them all. So this will help us, of course, continue on. And here we have also the chart area, and what we really want to calculate here, if I refresh here, is the top and bottom. And the reason why the top and bottom, the top, basically this pixel, you can see here, if I hover over with the inspector element, you can see there is like 700 pixels width and height would be 350. But as you can see here, the chart area is not exactly this width. And the reason why is, because let's say here above, this part here is basically white space where we only show the legend. The chart area starts, let me remove this, starts on this line here. This line is basically 32 pixels from the canvas starting point. So the canvas starts here above, and then 32 pixels down. At that very moment, it will start the chart area. So that is the real chart starting point. And the bottom will indicate the real ending point of it, which is 321. And then here below, of course, that is the ending, or this part here is still being calculated but not being considered as a chart area. So the chart area is between these four lines here, which we call the top, the bottom, this is the right side, and then we have here the left side. So you can see here left 27 pixels, meaning that, as you can see here, from this line to here is 27 pixels. So that's very important to understand. So with that, now we can start to indicate how big the drawing area is for the gradient effect. So we're going to do this now, and what we're going to do in here is the following. We're going to say a constant, and this constant will say gradient background, or BG, equals, and then we're going to say here ctx, and then we're going to use a command here which will say here create linear gradient, meaning we're going to make a gradient that is linear, and linear we're referring to from left to right or top to bottom. So once we have this, we're going to say here this is x0, and this is very important. Here we have y0, and then we have here x1 and y1. So what is the difference? The first one here indicates the starting point. So we want to know what is the starting point of our color. So basically we could start at here, which is the left side. We could start also at 0, because left side from left to right here, you need to go from here, or we could start from here all the way to here. This doesn't really matter because here the chart will never go, so you won't really notice anything. But if you want to be really accurate or precise, you should start at the left side, which is the starting point of the chart area. So what we can say here is left. And then here would be the ending point. And the ending point will eventually be the position of, and an ending point of the horizontal level. It would basically be here, which is 700, but also because this is just the exact end of the line, but it's also the left, the right line. So they're basically both. So we can say here right or 700, doesn't matter so much. This one here, oh, before we even do this, we need to say here, of course, chart area, because we didn't do any destructuring on that. We say chart area dot left, and we say chart area dot right. Very important. So next, what we want to do here is the following. We want to indicate here the starting point at the top. So you're probably very familiar what I just said, chart area top. So here dot top, and then here of course the bottom will be chart area bottom. So once I have this, now we can start to work on our drawing, because we know here now the exact. So if you want to know the exact top to bottom height, what we can do here is very simple. We can do a console log. We're going to say here the bottom, which is the starting point, which is the ending point. That's somewhere here down. Then, but the bottom is a pixel amount, meaning from here all up. So we need to deduct now the upper part, which is basically chart area dot top. Save that, refresh. Now we get this. You can see here, this is the official number of our height of the chart area Alright, so now we have this. So the next thing what we want to do now is we want to start drawing something. So let's do here gradient. Then I'm going to say BG, grabbing basically this constant here, and let's put in here some enters, and I want to put an enter here down so it looks more in the center. It's easier to see and to read. Alright, so we have this here. Then we see a dot. So we're going to grab this constant here, and then we're going to start to draw our first color. So let's make it very simple. We're going to make hard-coded, and then we're going to convert it into a soft-coded. So we say add color stop. And then what I want to do here for now is I want to just have a starting point here at 0. So there's a comma, and we're going to give it a color. Let's say red. And the next thing what I want to do here, I'm going to grab another one. I will say red again. But this one will be 0.5. Remember, this value is not allowed to be above 1, meaning this is 100%. Or this is 50% here, and then if it's 1, it will be 100%. So we cannot have more than 100% because this percentage is based on this value here. So let me just put in here another color. I'm going to say green. And then we put in here. And the reason why I'm doing this here is so that the transition is instant. We also can do a gradual transition. I'll show you as well. So we're going to put in this here. So if I save this now and refresh, alright, of course nothing works. Why? Because we need to return the gradient BG. Save this, refresh. Now you can see here, alright, let's see what's going on here. I didn't expect that one to be happening. Alright, I guess we can basically do here left and right gradient here. Fair enough. Maybe we need to just convert this one. This was not probably just to have this one no movement at all, or else we will have certain weird movements. If I refresh here, that's what I want. Alright, so we just don't need to have left and right here. Sorry, in this case, just have to be here. No movement from a different angle. So it's just straight lines. So that's very important here. What I said here before, I guess you can ignore that. Just put in 0, 0. Alright, so now we have this here. You can see this is the instant transition. And now what I'm going to do is here is do a gradual transition. If I would say here, this would be from 0.7. So 70%. From 70% down and onward, it would become gradually or fully green. But here it would transition from whatever it was previously. So there's a 20% transitioning mode here. Alright, so what I really want to do, and that was more important, is basically how do we select, let's say, from 18 to 14. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, we need to get what we call the pixel value of that specific value, y scale value. So there's two ways to do this, with ticks, and there's with the y, or with the value. And the difference is, one with the ticks, we calculate here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the ticks here. These are 10 ticks. And then you have also the value here. So if you have exact situation here, then you have this. If you have ticks, basically with the arrays, that would be more useful if your values would be different. Let's say you will change the chart consistently, and then you don't want that to be impacted, or you don't want to manually consistently adjust that. In that case, you can use ticks. If you use values, I'm going to show you both ways, so it doesn't matter so much, you will understand that. But if you use values here, if maybe another value of a new chart, or you have some extra bars with values that are beyond 100, then those will be basically fixed on the value itself. Anyway, doesn't matter so much. Let's start to work on it. So what I want to do here, first of all, I'm going to say here, I'm going to do a console log, Now what I'm going to grab here is the first value here. This is value number 18. So what I'm going to say here, scales, and this is the reason why we have the scales here. Scales, and then we say dot y because we want to have the y scale. And then what I'm going to say here, get dot and then get pixel for value, and the value that I want to extract is in this case number 18. So if I get this, we will get now our official pixel value here. If I save this and refresh, you can see your number is 32. Of course, in this case, you have to really consider the following. 32 would be considering the starting point. And why? Well, think about it. This is basically 0 in our area because we are starting at the very top. And this is the height. So this 32 is basically starting point. 32 equals 0 as well. So this is very important to understand. And this makes it slightly more tricky. However, let's start and continue on, and then we can just gradually play around with this. So what we're going to do is the following. We're going to grab here, let's say another value, number 14. Do console log as well, 14. Put it in here, save that, refresh, and then you can see here, 32 is the 0%, and then we have this one here. So basically what we need to do here, just to get the real value, is the following. This minus 32 equals a amount. Well, let's do a console log here quickly. And that amount must be eventually be calculated in a percentage compared to this. So we're going to say this here, minus 32. And then once we did that, well, let's save that, and I'll just comment out these 3 for now. Refresh, and we get here a value that's 64 plus plus. Alright, so this 64 will be eventually divided by this amount here, which is our height, top and bottom. And basically here we could even do here chart area top minus chart area top. See if this would be even a different value. So we could have a different value here, but I guess the value is exact same. Just put it in there. Alright, so that's exactly the same with all the 5s. So then if we do this here, console log, you can grab this one here, and then we will know the exact percentage. And the exact percentage is 0.222. Alright, so let's grab this here, put it not in the first one. The first one is a starting point, and then let's say we want to end it here, meaning ending at 14. So if we do that, and then we're going to say here, we make the remaining green, and save this, refresh, there you are. So now you have a nice line here. So this is basically how we can calculate that, but of course we can calculate it slightly easier if we can just do these two deducted from each other. So I just want to show you the other way, but you can see the numbers and we will have an understanding of it. But basically it would be this. Let's grab this to here, this, and then we say here will be 14, which is the highest value, minus the 32, which is the lowest value, which is number 18. Save that. Let's see what we get here. We will get as well 64 plus plus, which is that one here. You can see here exactly the same item. So the only thing what we have to do then here is the following, is console dot log, and then we say here, or basically this value here, let's say constant, let's call it upper red equals that. And then what we want to do here, of course, is the upper red needs to be calculated again by the total width of the chart area. So we can get this one here. Well, basically, if I'm not mistaken, we could just grab the chart area width. If we do this one, there's a one built in for that calculates the width of that. But just to be sure, I want to do here console log and to check what is this official number. The official number should be this number here. I expect this to be this here. So let's see if that is correct. Then we have here, oh sorry, of course, this is not width. My apologies, this is height. So the built-in height, let's save that. 289.6, which is exactly the same. So as you can see here, if you do this, we get this one here. Whatever would be here, this would be the percentage. So constant, and then we say here, upper red percentage. So once we have this, and this is all correct, then what I want to do, just to be sure, because what I need is the following. I need to know how much is that. Is that exactly this value here? I'm going to say console log, save that, and refresh. You can see here we get the same value. Beautiful. So now we grab this here. This will be here, and that will be here as well. So if I refresh here now, exactly the same works. Alright. So next one is just let's push it down here. Let's make this part red as well. So those are basically the next part of it. So what I want to do then here is we need to calculate. We know the ending would be red again. So somewhere midway or here, we need to, the green will stop here and then it becomes red again. So let's do this right now. So we have the upper red and let's start to work on basically a lower red. So the constant of lower red will be equal to the scale dot y, and then here, what is the get pixel value in our case here? The get pixel value will be number 4. And then number 4 would be, that's basically, remember, number 4 is a lower value compared to number 0. And I'm talking about the pixels, right? Because if we go from top here, 0, and then we go down here, it goes down this amount of pixels here, maybe 200. But we have to go then 50 pixels more down, or how many, to get the 0. So you can see then we need to do, of course, the 14 would be not number 14, but here it will be 0, because that's a higher number compared to the number 4 here. So just to make sure, to avoid your confusion, because you might be confused by that, then I just count out this. So if I save this on lower red now, we should see here a value which is 64. So if you would do here 4 and then here 0, you will get a negative number. So we do this, you can see here, then we get negative 64. In this case, it's alright, almost, except that it's negative, but we don't want that. We want the 64, that's the value we need. Alright, so once we have this value, what we need to do is basically here, calculate the percentage of it. And then here, this one, of course, is slightly more tricky. Because here, what we're really doing now is, we need to figure out the value. And the upper one is easy. The reason why is because we start here, basically, that to here, we calculate that. But now we have here 60, what was it, 64 plus. Let's put it in here. And you will notice that this value is not a proper representation of the total value here, because basically it will be this, and it will give you exact same value, and I don't want this. So what we need to do here is to recalculate this, because basically we're going down now how many ticks, if we calculate here, or how many lines do we have here. This is 0, this is 1, well, let's calculate it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, there are 10 ticks in here. So how many between here are there, or segments are there between here? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so this is 9 items here. So the value could not be this, but the value should be basically, if this is twice of these two, this should be divided by 2 and then multiplied by 8. Or sorry, not even 8, I think it's 7. Because what I want to do is I want to go here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need to hit this point here. That is 7 times this value here. So what we're going to do now is, and this is the most tricky part, this is really a tricky one, is we have to figure out, can we get here the exact pixel coordination? I guess we can probably just extract this one for now, just to see if this would be eventually the value. Console log, let's go and grab this, comment this out, save that, refresh. Oh, what happened here? Am I missing something that doesn't work? 116. Alright, 116. This is the upper red. Of course, we're using the same term here. The reason why it's double constants here, that's why it's not allowed. This should be lower red eventually, but doesn't matter. We don't use this. We're going to just first check this. Save this. We have this here. What is the value here? Well, basically it's this value. So this should be the representation then. Let's see if this was correct. So what I'm going to do here now is basically constant lower red percentage equals, then I'm just going to grab this one here, which is this value, divide by chart area height. If I save that, and let's do a console log. Let's double check what is the value of this. So we will get a percentage on it. And then of course here what I want to do here, well, let's show this first. Alright, so we get 88. Alright, and I think that will be a problem because it should be times 7. I think it's times 8, but that's alright. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Let's put in here, and this is why this part is really a tricky one. So I'm going to put this in here. Then I'm going to say here that percentage will be green, and then we're going to say here lower percentage will be green, lower percentage here, and then here to 1, means 100%, everything below green. But this one here, let's make this red again. So this is the lower red. So if I save this now, refresh, you can see here we're going 1 too much down. And the reason why we're going 1 too much down is basically we calculate 88, but 88 is including this part here, but we need to get the starting point. So what we could do here, we could do it 6, but it makes it very confusing. And if we do 6, you will see this is the right way to do it. So basically ending will be till 6. I guess you can see it like this because it is considered 6. If you do 4, it will consider that one. I guess that makes a lot of sense. What would be the ending point? Your ending point is 6, but 6 means including this block here. Alright, so now we have this here, and this is basically how to do it. What I want to do just one more is just to at least understand here, get value for ticks. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is we're going to grab here get value for ticks, but get value for ticks is slightly different because this is tick 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's get this tick here. Get value for tick. I'm going to say here get value for tick, and this get value for tick will be number 4, or am I correct? Was it 4 if 8? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, 4. Let's save that and then see here. And then, alright, so then of course 8 would be including this. So I need to do here tick number 5. So then if I refresh here, then you can see here this is the way to do it. And so with this you can play around. So slightly more tricky. I realize that this one basically, I can remove this. These two steps could be basically removed here. It's not necessary to do even. This one as well. We can say lower red percentage is based on the tick or the get value that we have here. So why is this better with the tick, or why is one better than the other? Now let me show you. If we have a very high value here, let's put it 180. If I save this now, probably everything will be a high amount. Alright, this here is 180. I don't know exactly how this is being calculated here, but this is the get value for tick. That works fine. Then here's this, and this here I cannot say so far. Probably there's something in here regarding to this that might, or somewhere here that starts to affect it. However, doesn't matter so much. That's why getting this can be helpful if you have a different number that changes all the time. So this is basically how you can play around with this if you want to go even more deeper. Because for example, you want to not only give a gradient color on the bar, but maybe you also want to give this a nice color, that this will be matching color or certain color that will highlight the difference. I would highly recommend you check out this specific video here, which says basically how to create an arbitrary line with a text in Chartjs, where for example, this could be of course for your bar chart as well, where you can, when you hit this green area, then at that very moment the bar will convert into a different color at that point.